major calls.
Major calls. So, if you have any questions, just step in. I guess there are questions. So I just any questions so far? Oh yeah, we have one here, please.
The questionnaire, was it anonymous? Did you collect any kind of names or anything like that?
It was not. I mean, it. Do you have this NDA? And Swissmade software is very specific about who sees the data. So I think it's only two people who ever saw any data which was not anonymous.
Collected the names or not?
They put in the names. Yeah.
If they wanted to, they could give us the names. We have email addresses, so we can contact them. But I was on whoever wanted to give this information, they could. If you wanted to answer anonymously, you could. But we've been doing this for like 3 years. We had 3 runs.
No, my question was not about your trustworthiness or something like that. The reason was I was asking is maybe they didn't then tell you that they wanted to change the employer or something like that.
Probably, of course. It's
first question about the Swiss people, your judgment. I'm not Swiss, by the way. You can go all the way.
I mean, no. The Swiss developer survey. That's misconception. It doesn't mean that you have to be Swiss. It means like you're in Switzerland or working related.
If you know my name, maybe I don't want to tell you that I want to change my employer. Maybe that was the reason that you get that high. Could be.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of data is anonymous. I mean, it's like the ethical question. Like, if you have a survey and they ask you, like, I don't know, whatever other question, like, would you drink too much on a party with friends? You're probably answering rather no, even though sometimes some people do, or I did at least. So I think of course survey data is always like, that's what I learned at this EPFS EOS survey data is a mess. If you ask people stuff that you can't measure, it's a mess.
But one additional thing here is, of course, we thought about this in the beginning too. So we'll ask them all these questions, and in the end, they're free to tell us who they are or not. So by the time they tell us who they are, they've already answered this question. Yeah, and also again, but again, if you think like, wait a minute, I said all this stuff, like said my employer sucks or whatever, and these people are all idiots I work with.
By the way, some did say that. Just sorry.
Yeah,
we had some comments like very few, but a few were really like my job, my company sucks.
It's structured in a way. It starts anonymous. In the end, if you feel comfortable, you can add your name, but you don't have to. You don't have to.
There was one here, first here.
Thank you. Thank you for the talks. They're all quite interesting. I got several questions. How many of them can I ask? Okay. So at least 2 questions, right? Okay. The first one goes to Diego. Initially, I wanted to ask you what your favorite model of WOM is, but I guess we can talk about that later on tonight. You were talking about what you called bottom-up democracy and how that's enabled your company to attract the best breed of talent. Let's say that was kind of your message. I was wondering, because in my experience, and here comes my question, in my experience, it does make sense to incentivize all of the people within your company to contribute and like bring in the change in order to make it better for all of them. But it also makes sense that you give more voting power to the people that have not necessarily like accumulated more years within the company, but the ones that have more seniority in the sense that they are just more capable, like a kind of meritocratic system. So I wondered how your stance on that was and how you would justify a grassroots democratic system within the company still.
Well, maybe first of all, I mean, we've been doing this for 2.5 years, so we're not experts on any of these topics. but we certainly want to provide a space where we can develop these things. And so far, what we've been able to see is that there are many great discussions, and usually, people will listen to someone that has experience in this area. So I don't think that these models exclude each other. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think we seem to agree on that. My second question, if I may, goes to all of them. But beforehand, I need to give you a bit more context, because I think I need to explain my reasoning here. The premise of tonight has been about if talent is not everything, right? There's more than that, apparently. So what's the premise? And to my mind, I understood that in the sense of talent meaning skilled workforce in general. In the corporate world, usually have that term of talent sourcing, where you want to attract the most talented and skilled people, not only talent as a gift, as you were pointing out, Diego. So taking that as an assumption, what the premise meant, I wanted to ask you all guys, what do you think about how we can make sure that institutions like, in our instance, the Fachhochschule, or like schools in general, but also corporate, private companies, can make sure to make people be interested in tech, and actually to have a better skilled workforce here in Switzerland. Because when I think of the area of Basel, I don't necessarily think of skilled or even motivated skill force in tech. So I was wondering how what were your thoughts about that? How we can make sure to actually keep up with the actual pace that is happening in the world. I'm thinking of Silicon Valley. I'm thinking, Zurich, Basel and Zurich in that regard. So what are your thoughts on that, guys? Thanks.
Yeah, maybe I can start a little bit here. I think it starts pretty early in schools. I do have some students, maybe 10-15%, who come from another country, and a lot from Eastern Europe. And there are more females. They have more knowledge in math, in science, in physics, and those kind of things in school. Whereas in Switzerland, I have the feeling that it's not so strong in the school, those kind of subjects. We have a lot of languages. Everyone speaks 3, 4, 5 languages. We're very strong there. Not so much in science. I think that's one reason. And I think our director of FHNW, Crispino Bergamaschi, he's also very much interested into bringing more pupils into those MINT topics, math, information technology, etc., engineering. And they are offering for young kids, for young pupils, they're offering weekends or where they can play around things. And usually you have as many girls as boys in those events when they are still young, like 10 years, 12 years or something like that. And then at some point it drops off. So I think there's a connection between not so heavily interested in those techie things with a lot of math. We have to be very smart and long working days or nights or whatever. This little bit, this nerdy image I talked a little bit about is still hanging around and not very attractive for a lot of young kids for some reason. And the other thing is that we don't attract enough girls. I mean, in my program, you don't have to be a tech savvy person. You learn some basics, but you don't have to become a programmer. You can find another role, and still we only have 20% women. So I think it goes really back to deeper than just what we offer at FHNW or universities and stuff like that. I think it's a deeper rooted thing. And maybe also one other thing, I think there's also fear, how secure is my future? I'm very surprised by those results. So it's very interesting because those people, the full developers with their heart, they're very happy people. Obviously, that needs to be carried out there, that those are cool jobs. And once you get the neck on it, you can spend your whole career like that. And you can be a very, free person, finding different ways to work. You don't have to sign a contract for 35 years with Microsoft or something, although that's probably attractive as well. So I think that's one problem we have. The business people, they are very loud. They're extroverts. They're very good in communicating, doing a lot of marketing, and maybe I'm somewhere in the middle or something. But the more technical people are usually not that much. And I think more needs to be done, and that's why I want to support this initiative of Elijah. It's just great, and we need to, go out there, be on the stage, talk about it, and those results can be very, very interesting, and carry it out.
So I fully agree with you. The image of computer science is still super nerdy, frankly. And I think that needs to change. We need to talk about the fun of it very much more. And I think it's also gradually changing because with, for example, artificial intelligence setting in, it sort of opens up the field to people who are not as nerdy and not as knowledgeable technology-wise, but who still can participate and get quite far. Also, there's border areas that open up easily, where we find much more women, for example. So in AI, I just come back from a text analysis conference, 40% women. I see that in usability and user interface design, there's more women. So this is, I think this is gradually moving in, but it takes some time. It hasn't been moving in 30 years, 40 years. We just discussed on the sideline when we started studying, there was still sort of all men. So and it's still the same. That's one thing. And I think we should be opening up more. And also I think there should be stronger coalitions actually between universities, schools, and industrial companies. We're still doing a lot of job collaborating, but I think that we still need to do more, much more.
I just want to answer the Basel is in Zurich question. We do mostly in-house courses. Who cares? We don't do that many public, but I don't put them out to Basel. I have actually rooms here. They're even for free for me. I still put them to Zurich, and it's really simple. Somebody from Bern goes to a course to Zurich. Somebody from Basel goes to a course to Zurich, and also an event and everything else. Like everybody is used to go to Zurich. If you live in Bern, easily work in Zurich. If you live in Basel, easily work in Zurich. So I don't know. I mean, I'm myself. I do the same thing. I'm like having a GitLab course, and I'm putting it out in Basel, like at one participant, like 3 months before, and I'm like, let's move it to Zurich. And I'm not double booking. But in all the events, you were at the Kubernetes community days. You know what I mean? Basel isn't Zurich, and I'm not sure if it's possible to do that. And Zurich is so close. I'm not sure. I mean, it's obviously hard if you have a company in Basel and you want to attract workforce directly to Basel. Probably if they already live in Zurich, it's maybe hard. I don't know. Not sure.
So we need better. From Zurich.
We need cooler. we need Kubernetes community days in Basel. But would they work this way? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Maybe I can add a little bit from the more side of startups and industry. So one of the things that I have noticed is that most of the job I see people doing around me, my peers and so on, most of it is doing enterprise web applications. But so many of my peers are very passionate and they have great ideas and would like to go in different areas and get a bit more traction in the tech field and also expand the whole field. But I found it still to be harder than, let's say, in the US to get funding for early stage startups. And so I've seen many programs that will give you maybe 10K to delay your bankruptcy, or maybe choose between your bar job and your startup. But we need like more significant money to support people so that they don't have to choose between paying rent and supporting their family and their startup. So I think the initiative from that Elias was mentioning, Elijah, is really great. But there needs to be significant funding. I think this could help a lot.
So Basel Tech 250K per startup at least. Very small bootstrap.
Jonas, just out of curiosity, do you share the same?
Obviously, I mean, for the startup engine, absolutely. But wasn't a joke. Is the direction absolutely.
Okay, glad to hear.
Like if I see those events like startup, super events, so much work, and then at the end it's like 10, 20,000. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I have a question for Elisabeth and maybe for some of the others as well. You mentioned a term that's been making the rounds, I think even more outside of IT recently. You said work-life balance is relevant for new employees, attracting people that come out of education. And I mean, on the one hand, work-life balance in a way, I think this is very important. On the other hand, we already learned that your work is your life. If you're a coder, yeah, that's the result, obviously, of the survey. And this is also what we've experienced when talking, because work satisfaction is so high. So that's number one. And the other one is, I remember, I mean, we're both not 20 anymore, right? So I remember when we were younger, and especially our generation of our parents, and then, a bunch of Americans would come over and say, oh, I'm so passionate about my company. And all the Europeans would stand there and roll their eyes and say, like, Jesus Christ, go home. Yes. I'm passionate about my wife. And I'm saying this is a German, right? No, passion is not at the core of my being. But and then we've kind of imported this everybody has to be passionate about the work, and I think you can be very motivated and you can love your work but you don't have to be passionate about it. And everybody gets kind of forced to kind of like put on the happy face and like, oh, this is the greatest thing I ever did. Thank you. Please let me work more. Which comes out of the American employment market and, the way marketing has taken over everything. Well, we could call it fake it till you make it, right? Which is half the IT products sold out of the US because, this is really great. We sold it to 20 customers. It's deployed everywhere. It works great. Have you finished coding yet? No. So my question here is, are we going back more towards a world bit more from before where you said like, yeah, my work is important for me. I want to do a good job, but there's stuff outside of it. And do you feel there's like this wave movement, like from 30 years ago to today, and this has peaked really?
Actually, I think that's what you just said. That's totally true. I have the impression that we're going back to sort of separating being passionate about a job, but still separating life and work to a degree. Actually, I have been very surprised at these figures that people sort of work full hours, probably also do overtime, and then they go in their basement and they keep doing it. This is not a reality I'm seeing, because I see that people want to have a good life with their family. I see that people have many interests outside of their job, and actually this is something that we want to encourage, that they sort of travel, that they have other hobbies that have nothing to do with the job. If life and hobby is the same and you can separate it, I don't know whether this is always a success factor. So yes, from what I see from interviews, what I see from colleagues and friends who are in the computer science field, they're separating this very clearly, still being passionate about the job, and that's doable. I think all of us know that.
Sorry. So please don't hate me, but there is one thing I want to say. So first of all, go to the next KubeCon, Kubernetes Community Days, or whatever really rocking conference. And of course, there are people doing marketing, like, I'm here, I'm doing marketing here. I'm here because I do marketing. But there are actual people, and I think most of the engineers, they travel, they do sports, they're socially absolutely capable to talk to anybody who's not programming, and they just really like to solve technical stuff, and it's just fun. And they're still, so I think the image of this, I'm not sure if this image, where this image everywhere is. There is still, for sure, somewhere this image, I don't know, there is this image, but often it's also like where you look, and there is a really strong movement out there where you really see, it's not even an image topic. I mean, to be honest, like, just a question. How many of you did code this week? Okay, look around. Who of them looks like okay, that's bad question, but like how many of you have no issue to talk to anybody in work, like socially? Do you think you're socially at least average capable like the other workers? Like, hands up. Yeah, I think most of you probably. Like I don't know. It's. I think, and I think there are also areas where software engineering is cool. What I really recommend you to watch is really there is a woman. She's from Austria. She's called Nana Tech World. She's called Nana, but she has a YouTube channel, Tech World. She has 1 million followers. And she's making real money. She actually asked us for cooperation, and then we tried to talk to her, and then when we really realized how much she actually does, and look at her videos, look what she's doing. Like, this image is still somewhere, maybe in some cities more, in some cities less, but it's not, I would say most engineers are cool people. If they're sporty or not, I don't care, but like they just like to solve that stuff, and it's really cool. I got endorphins all day solving stuff, and I don't have to. I could do Jira tickets all day, but I don't like to do Jira tickets.
So that was a real promotion for. Other questions? I think back there was a question. Oh yeah.
I don't really have a question, but I think I can add something on this image side as well, as someone who's still young. And I think it's the nerdy image mostly comes from movies, where developers in movies, they're always the guys who are maybe not very hygienic and have long hair and sit in the basement in a dark room and do not talk to anyone, and they type on the random keyboard something, and suddenly something amazing happens. And when we young people or even kids watch movies like this, we really have this stereotype about the developers being these kind of nerdy people. And I think that's also a reason why maybe it's so much male dominant, because women mostly tend to go to tend to do people jobs like HR and stuff like that, and seeing the nerdy image of a developer not talking, not being social and stuff like that maybe scares them, and maybe that's why there's suddenly a drop in female percentage. But yeah, it's hard, or it's difficult to really understand that the stereotype might not be true when you grow up as a kid watching movies like this. And yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this nerdy image there has a lot about the envy, right? I mean, you guys have fun programming. A lot of people just don't have so fun working, I think. Okay, other questions or comments to this? Oh, please.
So software development is a career path that makes you happy, but you have to sharpen the skill set. And this is especially true for beginners, juniors. Who are these companies or schools? Where's the main responsibility there?
I think the responsibility is basically the same. So I think, of course, everyone needs to have understanding what he or she wants to go to and develop into, but at the beginning of the career, you don't quite know where things should be going. And also at the beginning of your career, you don't know what industry or the customers actually what they need. So as Michael said, so what universities are currently doing is that they're providing the students with the skill set and the frameworks to sort of be able to decide for themselves, and then also to sort of steer their way in the right direction, being able to grasp new things quickly and to understand where they want to go. I think this is the duty of a university, and this is what you learn: methodologies, language construction, all these types of things, structures. So, and of course, I mean, if you want to take it further, it's also the responsibility of the state and the society to sort of have institutions like this. Right?
Yeah, just what comes to my mind, maybe one reason why not so many people go into that direction might also be because they know you have to learn all your life. You always have to do it. And I think that's a big mistake. Because everything where you don't have will be ultimately going away. Those jobs won't exist anymore. So you kind of have to do it at least a little bit. We believe so. We still don't know why the majority of our students still studies business administration and not at least be IT to have some computer science, knowledge, which helps you in the future. We don't know what's going to be in 10 years, in 20 years, but there will be probably computers, software, artificial intelligence. So I think a lot of people are scared. They say you have to be super smart in order to do it. Maybe I'm not super smart. And I have to keep learning, and it's very stressful. And then you read the news, I don't know, Google and Meta throwing out half their employees or whatever, or 10%, and then it's kind of, oh my God, that's not even safe. So I have to learn all the time, and I still cannot be sure whether I have my job. And obviously, it's the other way around. You have to learn.
And also, by the way, the image that computer scientists and developers work day and night, exactly what sort of came out of that survey. I think that also is sort of promoting a wrong image. So some of the students might not want to engage in computer science because the image is like lifelong learning and day and night work. So not sure.
I don't know who of you had job interviews with software engineers. So I think everybody can learn everything if they're super motivated. But it's also, I'm not sure if everybody has to learn to code or go into really IT. So for example, I have very much younger siblings. I have like 20-year younger siblings. And I told them, don't go into IT to be an IT specialist or software engineer. Go into some area which you like, and then learn coding. I went away from home when I was 16 and totally. But if I could go back and I would grow up in a different area, I would probably try to do something in the medical area and learn coding to do something better. I don't know. Do you need engineers to do the juniors really imagining what we try to solve? I think these kind of. I look for, just from a company perspective, I would forget the experience, forget the CV. I mean, there has to be some indication that they're, and then juniors, and I'm not talking about the classical career juniors, and look for the spark and look for the potential, and then give them someone who wants to ignite this spark and show them like how it really works. Somebody who's sitting there, look, and this container, it's actually just a change root from Linux. We did this 20 years ago, but now everybody's hyped. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's really like feeling it, not somebody sitting there like, yeah, I did this IT course, and then, yeah, now I want to do IT more, and oh yeah, JavaScript, I did this if else, and okay, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Maybe one. one last question. Oh, we have two.
My question is, how do you evaluate the importance of cybersecurity in software engineering or even in computer science? Because yeah, I just saw one lesson in cybersecurity in 6th semester on your program.
I mean, a lot of work to do, and I think one of the problems that we have is that incentives for companies to invest more in cybersecurity are low. And I'm talking about, let's say, applications, simply because there are certain things that today you almost cannot get wrong, but people still do them wrong. But there are no consequences, for instance, for storing plain text passwords. I mean, who in the world does this today anymore? But apparently there's still enough people doing this. And there should be more consequences for these clear breaches of best practices. This is one of the things I would support.
From a career perspective, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm currently negotiating with Control Plane from the UK. They're like the go-to security in cloud native, and I'm negotiating with them to get them to Zurich to make a conference, a small, like, yeah, I would go for it. But I think it's, and especially like hands-on. Let the others do the ISO 21001 stuff and fill in all the checkbox. There are many people who can do that, and it's hard and it's annoying. It makes somehow sense, but I would go full hands-on and fix the actual stuff. And the fix is usually not that hard. It just has to be done. It has to really be done. Usually it's not a big box putting in there like security by IBM. Pay license here. It's usually more like getting everybody to do it and fix the stuff. I don't know. I would go for it. I would like to do more in security. I just don't have the time. And capture the flags. Let's do a capture the flag in Basel. We did that's so amazing. It's so, I don't know if you know that. It's like a competition. It's absolutely the most fun. It's let's connect. It's so much fun. I go to KubeCon mostly because of that. It's like you try to hack in other systems, and it's basically a competition who gets the most like hidden flags by hacking into other systems. Best way to learn. I learned more in a hackathon than in like 5-6 weeks of course.
Okay, a very good idea, good suggestion.
Capture the flag, not hackathon.
One more question.
Hackathon is also great, but capture the flag.
One last question, Patrick.
Well, I don't have a question, but I have a comment to your comment over there. The young guy with the phone in his hands. Because I think the nerdy image was before the movies, and that's the problem. When I started in IT in the 80s, and the nerdy image was already there. Maybe it was even stronger, but there were no movies at the time. So, yeah, but that's the question. Why was it there, and where did it come from? Because it was already, well, back then it was maybe a science. IT was a science 30 years old, 40 years old back then. The very beginnings, you must know better, maybe. But it was still a young domain, and the nerdy image was there. And maybe we should try to answer why it was there, and then we can find a solution. But I don't think it was the movies.
Yeah. Okay, Christian, did you have another? Okay.
Okay, so I've been in IT now for like around 20 years as well, and we've had these discussions about juniors for basically since forever, or at least since the .com crash, when first of all it looked everything is great and everybody should become a programmer, and then internet was a dirty word and nobody wanted to, and they all went to KV. But I think, to be completely honest, when I look around, and I haven't looked at the latest numbers yet, but over the years it's basically the same. You have companies complaining about that and not willing to put up, basically. You know, you have as a company, if you want these people, you have to invest in them, you know, and you have to put them on projects with clients so they learn hard stuff, you know, hands-on. And most companies are not willing to do that. They want to build seniors. Yeah, and it's like if I put a junior on there and I have to justify the extra cost to my client, then I'm not doing that, you know. And this is when you're in client projects and when you do your own software, it's all I want is seniors. I want people who are productive, like on day one. And if you have an apprentice, you know, the first year it's 20% tops, you know, in just about everything you do, unless you fill shelves or whatever. You know, in Switzerland, basically, the companies are not willing to put up, yeah, and then they always say the state should provide, and on the other hand, we don't want to pay taxes, right? So that's where the dog bites its own tail, because somebody has to pay for it. I mean, isn't that true?
But in the US, you don't get any education for free. Nobody helps you at all. And the only people who really get into computer science are the ones who learn and do it really hard to get in there.
You do realize that.
But I wouldn't want to live in the
Wait,
US.
wait. You do realize American education runs 2/3 on Indians and Chinese.
I don't know. I don't know the context.
Any comments on this? I mean, do you have a program in Qualys for apprentice?
No, we don't have a program for apprentice. As we said before, I mean, it's still very early. I mean, we haven't really thought much about this. I guess, you know, once you have a certain size,
Of course, yeah.
think about this, but it's mostly an open question at this point, to be honest.
We actually need to have juniors, pretty much so, because exactly for the reason you've been pointing out, you can't always hire seniors, you don't find them, and therefore you need to invest. And investment starts fairly early. So, for example, there's new programs at the Fachhochschulen actually, where you can get interns that study at the same time at a Fachhochschule, and they grow with you actually. It's called PIPS, if I'm correct, and it's a very nice program where actually a student grows with you, and you can give him various tasks, and you monitor the progress, and it's a mutual giving and taking, and we're currently engaging on that. We're also having interns, and we think that's very, very important to do that. You cannot only have seniors. That's also a duty to the society to do that. And the world does not exist of seniors only. There are juniors that need support. And on the other hand, I think with, for example, agile development, we have very nice tools in order to sort of work with juniors and sort of tutor them and bring them along and involve them in a customer project, and that should be done. And I think Swiss companies do that quite a lot. There's just not that much talk about it.
Maybe one thing. So one thing I would like to add. So I mean, in college we're mainly seniors, so 10 years plus experience. But almost in all projects that we work, there are juniors, and I think the collaboration with them usually is quite fruitful for both. And I mean, personally, I've really enjoyed it, and I've also learned a lot from the juniors. But I think very often there's also a fixation on, you know, the budget. We cannot spend so much and so on. And very often there's too many juniors to be coached properly. That is what I've seen a lot. And I don't know exactly where the problem there lies. I think at least the community, I guess this plays a bit into what Jonas has mentioned before. I mean, it's very open. We're passionate about it. We love sharing. We love learning from each other. So I think the possibilities are there, but maybe it's, you know, I think financially there needs to be, you know, better models to accommodate for these things. I don't know.
Okay, so I want to thank you for your contributions and sharing your insights with us. Really nice. Thank you for coming. There are going to be a couple of drinks and a little bit of food, so stay around and have fun and talk to each other and learn even more. And yes, we will be around again on August 29. So that will be the next It's About Tech. That we're going to talk about next generation, let's say, of interfaces or the digital experience, right? So what comes next in the digital experience, the user experience with the digital, of course, ChatGPT as one, but there are others technologies out there that really change this fundamental interface between me as a user and the machine, right? So we're going to talk about that. And if you have anything to contribute in that direction, you find me and I'll be happy to talk about it. Okay, thank you very much and enjoy the evening. Thank you.